it's important. I decided to focus on some very high-level developments that have happened in the last year, initially, and then also what we continue to do at grassroots, and because it's really the work that we've done as grassroots activists, that we've kept these issues alive over the last 30, 40 years, that has meant that finally our leaders and some of the more high-level institutions are beginning to respond, sometimes to capture what we're doing and take it into directions that should concern us, but sometimes genuinely to move things forward. And it's important that even though these developments are happening at high level, that we keep our eye on them, because we've seen what happens sometimes when there's a kind of elite capture and our governments start talking to European governments and then try and do side deals that don't necessarily address the things that we've been fighting for 20 years, which is proper justice for the victims of this period, and also their descendants and ancestors. And we saw that kind of elite conversation happening, particularly in Namibia, with the government and the Germans who were starting a discussion about reparations, which then ignored some of the communities in Namibia who actually went through the genocide and suffered some of the most egregious abuses. So as activists, we have to keep our eyes on what's going on. But very quickly, others have mentioned the key one that I wanted to talk about, which is that last year, the African Union in November, and the government of Ghana convened a big conference in Accra to put reparations on the agenda. It followed an earlier conference in summit in Accra in 2022, but that conference was very meaningful. There was massive support from CARICOM, and also from the ways that the AU and CARICOM are understanding it is that, you know, the AU have African-led governments, and CARICOM the same mostly. We know that there are nuances in Guyana and Trinidad, but in most other places, the governments there are led by Africans. And then elsewhere in the world, you're essentially where there aren't any African government or African-led governments, you're then dealing with civil society. So there was a huge civil society involvement from the Americas, from Latin and North America at this conference. And the big outcome, there were three big outcomes. One was the reparations demands would be made on three bases. The first basis would be for slavery. The second basis would be for colonialism. And the third basis would be for neo-colonialism. So it's a huge agenda. There's going to be a lot of work to do to understand those three frameworks. The third one, the neo-colonialism one, we know we probably will get a lot of resistance, as Brother Elder Cecil Gospel was saying, from our current governments who are involved in their own neo-colonial relationships. But that's the framework that people are going to move forward on. The other big outcome from that conference was that they talked about establishing a global reparations fund and trying to move some of this activism through the UN. And there were discussions about how you do that, perhaps a special court that has the competencies and experts, such as was established for Sierra Leone and Kosovo, to be able to bring together a way to, and a mechanism to keep this on the agenda and move it through the UN system. The other important thing that came out in terms of follow-up work is that the AU itself, as was mentioned earlier, has now decided that 2025 will be the year of reparations, justice for Africans and people of African descent through reparations. So that's the theme. So 2025 is going to be a framework for all of us to really press the AU, because they've taken this on, and it's going to be managed through the CEDAW, that's the diaspora arm, but it's on the agenda at a very high level now with all the African countries, and what we have to decide is what we want out of this year, and whether the fight should be not to have a year but to extend a decade or a longer period where we can actually get some traction and get some really useful outcomes. But there is a window to now decide what comes out of that year. We, in terms of the work I've been arguing for the AU, perhaps, you can try and engage other people, the people who we want the reparations from, but there's also self-repair that we can do ourselves that we don't need to decide for anybody to do. So one of the big things we're pushing them is to say, can we have an African Remembrance Day, a global African Remembrance Day, to actually remember the victims as the first step to seeking preparatory justice for them. Can we get back the ancestral remains of some of our heroes whose skulls and remains are in institutions here in museums and other institutions in the West. So there are things that we want to put on the agenda. What do you want to put on that agenda that we can get out of 2025? The other big development was obviously, has been spoken about by Clive, which was the move of the Commonwealth. And that's really important because now that it's been acknowledged in the communique, the Commonwealth Secretariat can now devote some resources to pushing this forward. Before, you couldn't have a conversation with them because they said it's not part of their mandate. So we can push the Commonwealth Secretariat to start having how we flesh out that communique that was spoken about by Clive. And the other really interesting development with the Commonwealth is that the new head of the Commonwealth, who was just appointed, was a Ghanaian, Shirley Bochwe, who was a former Ghanaian Foreign Secretary, and she was the one pushing the reparations agenda in the conference last year. So we're pushing out an open door, and we can get the Commonwealth to dedicate some resources towards this. Obviously, at a lower level, the Church of England initially offered 10 million in terms of concrete action and was told that they were insulting people, and they raised that now to 100 million over the last year to begin a process of discussing how you start doing reparatory justice, and those conversations are going on. And then on the level of apologies, since the Dutch King's apology in 2022 and the Prime Minister's Dutch Prime Minister apology last year, no other ones have come forward, so there's nothing there. But I did just want to mention one final thing, which is that Sadiq Khan in London, in terms of memorials, finally has put together a competition for a memorial for the victims of slavery and the transatlantic Holocaust, and it's going to sit outside the Museum of London Docklands. The winning artist was what's his name? The Wake by Caleb Brooks, and it will go up in 2026. So that's going to be the first memorial to the victims in London. There's one I know that is by the side of Parliament, but it's been disused. The other thing that we want to try and see is if we can press for a major, and this could be part of the action through Commonwealth, through the AU, for a major memorial at the heart of this nation's history and the sacrifices that have been made to construct this nation, somewhere like Whitehall, and that would be a UK-wide memorial. So I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kush Communiversity is brought to you by our amazing sponsor, The Black Secret. Are you ready to dive deep into Black history, economics, wealth building, and self-empowerment? The Black Secret is offering exclusive courses by none other than the Black history man himself, Robin Walker. This is the most powerful Black studies course, an offer for the entire Black world. And guess what? You can get started today by simply using our special link, which you can find in the video description. Be sure to apply our coupon code KIMBUNGA to get another 20% off your membership. And there's more! Want to get a taste of what the Black Secret has to offer? You can also claim the book 100 Black History Facts absolutely free. Link in the description. So what are you waiting for? Expand your mind, unlock a world of knowledge, claim your free book, and let the Black Secret guide you on a journey of discovery and empowerment.
Click on the link below or subscribe to get more information. Class is in session.